how can you access the label dynamically? So here in my Salesforce org, I have a label that's called speaker underscore name. So here instead directly I can access system.label.get. First one is namespace. If your label is part of managed package, if you are using namespace, you will use the namespace, and then label, and you can optionally you can pass the language. If I need a Spanish translation, then just system.label.get namespace, then my label name, then language. By default it will give me default for example English. Okay, you can see the output. Speaker of current session is Om Prakash. Means our label variable coming from outside as an input, then you can pass as a string literal. Correct. In the Apex, because we are working on the cloud, so it's always a recommended approach. From very beginning, from the learning time itself, you start following the best practices. Let's see one by one. First thing first, always keep governor limit in the mind. You can check the Salesforce developer official websites for all the governor limits, even for the DML, get records, sending email, or any specific actions you are doing in the Apex. Always check the governor limits and write your code like this, so even your code is going to satisfy the governor limits. Then bulkify your data manipulation language, DML statements. What is the meaning of this? I have to insert the 10 records, right? I can write the 10 time insert, or I can use one collection variable. I can put all those my list of record in the list, and I can simply insert that, right? In the one go, record will be created. Then avoid nesting loops. Sometimes if you look in the code, you can use the map, right? You don't need to go to the loop inside loop. You can use the map and it will work fine for you. You can avoid SOQL queries and DML statement inside loops. Same thing as I was talking earlier. I have to insert 100 of records, right? What I can do? I will use the collection variable. Okay. If I am using the get query, I am using the SOQL query. I will try to bring all the IDs in the list, and I will use outside of the for loop. First thing first, always use one trigger per object. Not sure? Create a helper method and always use one Apex trigger for the object, right? Okay. Avoid recursion. Lead record is getting updated, trigger is fired. Inside the trigger, in the handler, I am again updating the lead record. Again trigger will fire, right? So what is best practice here? In the trigger, in the beginning, add the carefully criteria, right? Add the logic if you need to perform this action on a specific field change, so that it will not go in the chain. Like, okay, update, trigger fired. In the trigger, I am again updating the object, same object. Okay, update, trigger, update. It will go in a loop, right? This is called recursion. You can avoid this with help of a static variable sometimes as well. Okay. Your Apex method should be reusable, and at the same time your Apex method should follow the best practices so you can reuse it. Let's say I have to send email. I have written the logic there. Again I have to send email from the another class. Why not reuse that method? So create a small method, reuse that method from the other places. Are you using the context variable wisely? Trigger given you lots of context variable, is insert, is update, is before, is after. Use that. If you need to do some action in the before insert, write the logic in the way that you are specifying, okay, if trigger is insert and trigger is before. So your logic will only work when it's needed. keep the logic outside of trigger. Like you are using the helper, you are using the handler methods, always put the logic inside the handler method so that you can satisfy the first one. Use one trigger per object once you move your logic outside of the trigger. In the test classes, having the good test data is the best practices. At same time, create test data factory, use assertion, and don't introduce extra logic just for the test. Sometimes I see people use the extra logic for passing the test class. No, never go in that direction, and cover as many lines of code as possible. Goal is to achieve the 75%, but this should not be your goal. Your goal should be covering the all the negative and positive aspect of the your logic. Thank you very much.